On the day of the Empress Dowager's birthday, she arranged marriages for me and my younger sister at the same time. I was betrothed to the crown prince, who held absolute power over the court. My younger sister married the war god general. After joining the army, she succumbed to the harsh conditions at the border and died tragically. When the news of her death reached us, my husband sat alone in the courtyard all night. Later, he became the emperor and had countless children. But there was no child born to me, the Empress. After he passed the throne to the son of Empress Xiao Shufei, he feigned death and left the palace. It is said that he became the caretaker of a lonely grave on the border. In my next life, I chose to marry the general. The Empress's smile froze on her face. The palace maids lowered their brows, fearing they might bring bad luck. Qingyin, what did you say? I did not hear clearly. I knelt on the floor and bowed my head heavily. Qingyin refuses to marry the crown prince. Please revoke the decree. Empress Dowager. The rising smoke in the hall blurred my vision, causing my eyes to well up with tears. I felt a pang of sadness. After a long time, the hall was deathly silent. Even when my knees grew numb, I did not receive the Empress Dowager's consent. She did not speak, and I dared not move. After a long time, she sighed softly. You may all withdraw. After dismissing all the palace maids, the Empress Dowager motioned for me to rise. I obediently approached and leaned against her knee. Her hand rested on my hair. It was warm, just like my late grandmother's. I am an old woman who has seen much. I can tell that you have been infatuated with the crown prince since childhood. Tell me, why did you change your mind? I steadied my heart and suppressed the surging bitterness. I know the crown prince will one day inherit the throne, and this is the best future you could secure for me. Qingyin once longed for a lifetime of love with one person. But as an empress, having concubines is inevitable. Once this heart is given, it cannot be taken back. But while I can accept this, I cannot bear the thought that my husband has never truly loved me. This is a disgrace to Qingyin. The Empress Dowager paused, her hands still on my hair. Are you saying that Huaner has never had feelings for you? I buried my face in the Empress Dowager's lap and said nothing more. I only said, if the Empress Dowager truly loves me, please grant me this favor. The Empress Dowager was perceptive. She must have understood what I was saying. Though I did not lift my head, I felt a burning gaze fixed upon me. It was as though she was seeing others through me. After a long while, she stroked my back. Enough. Enough. You are very much like your grandmother. But you know she did not want you to take this path. Are you truly certain you will not regret it? If I don't marry the crown prince, I'll have to marry that Mu Shao general who's always out fighting. The barbarian tribes are watching us closely, and our country is struggling to keep them at bay. To maintain relations with a few countries we barely get along with, we have no choice but to form alliances through marriage. But the current emperor has no princesses, only sons. Every year, the bride for the alliance is chosen from the noble families, given the title of princess, and sent off to marry. My younger sister and I are nearly of age. If we refuse the marriage alliance, there is no other option but to marry. The Empress Dowager will arrange our marriages at her birthday banquet in 3 days. This is the favor my father secured with a lifetime of military service. The Empress Dowager favors me because I resemble my grandmother. Therefore, she wishes to secure a path for me to become the empress. But in this life, I only wish to leave. Upon returning home, my mother greeted me. I guessed she wanted to ask what the Empress Dowager had said to me. Before she could ask, a servant announced from outside. Lady, Miss, the crown prince has arrived. As soon as the words left his mouth, Li Huan walked in. The attendants behind him were carrying pastries from my favorite bakery. Aunt, I went out to inspect the city today and thought I'd stop by to see you. My mother smiled and welcomed Li Huan inside. After taking a few steps, she noticed I hadn't followed and turned back to me. "Why aren't you going in, Qingyin?" My mother covered her mouth and laughed, then left discreetly. Li Huan raised his hand, and his attendants brought over the pastries. "Your favorite chestnut cake. Still warm." For the first time, I refused him. "No. Thank you. I haven't been in the mood for sweets lately." With that, I walked around him and left the courtyard. Inside the house, my mother kept him engaged in small talk. Li Huan smiled and responded, but his eyes were wandering. Every now and then, he glanced toward the door. When my younger sister returned, his eyes lit up instantly. "Mother, elder sister, I'm back." Seeing Li Huan, Lin Qingwan curtsied. "The crown prince is here too." Li Huan smiled and walked forward, pulling out a package of pastries from his robe and handing it over. "Here, it's peach blossom pastries." After saying that, he added, as if to emphasize his point, "I got each of you your favorite ones. Or else you'd say I'm biased." I lowered my head to sip my tea, not responding. Once, I thought Li Huan had feelings for me. My mother was the Empress Dowager's adopted daughter, so I had been free to come and go as I pleased in the palace since I was a child. My mother told me that when I was little, I cried whenever I saw anyone, but only the young Li Huan could make me smile. As I grew older, I became like a little tail, following him everywhere he went. In spring, he took me to the Imperial Garden to fly kites. In summer, he invited me to the summer palace to escape the heat. In autumn, he protected me as we went outside the city to enjoy the autumn scenery. In winter, he eagerly took me to the edge of Xian Lake with a rope to chase wild rabbits. As the seasons changed, his shadow was everywhere in my life. When he was crowned prince and no longer had the freedom to play, I quietly stayed by his side, grinding ink and pouring tea for him. I thought that with the 4 seasons, we had a lifetime. Until the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet in my previous life. After Lin Qingwan and I each found our own paths, I realized the person in Li Huan's heart was not me. I became the crown princess in the Eastern Palace, while Lin Qingwan married Mu Lianin and went to the border. The border was harsh and cold, and Lin Qingwan contracted a severe illness and passed away. On the day the news reached Chang'an City, Li Huan sat alone in the courtyard all night. From that day onward, he never touched me again. Later, Li Huan ascended the throne, and the palace was filled with many new faces. There were also many children, bringing some liveliness to the once quiet palace. But I never had a child of my own. On the day Li Huan passed away, I wept until my heart was shattered. But later, the secret guards left by the Empress Dowager told me Li Huan had not died. He had faked his death to escape and became a gravekeeper at a lonely tomb on the frontier. That tomb belonged to Lin Qingwan. I should have realized it long ago. Just like these chestnut cakes, they were originally just a side dish for the peach blossom pastries. Every time he gave me something, it was through the attendants. But the ones for Lin Qingwan, he always kept them close to his chest. Lin Qingwan smiled as she took the pastry and walked over to hold my hand. "Sister, the Empress Dowager summoned you alone to the palace today, not even allowing me or mother to accompany you. Did she tell you some secret?" Her round eyes twinkled. "Is it about the arranged marriage?" My mother's face lit up with anticipation. Li Huan pretended to cough and turned his face away, but his eyes kept glancing over here, clearly heartbroken. I calmly pulled my hand away. "Nothing. Just some family talk. My mother is a kind-hearted person. After Lin Qingwan's mother passed away, she took her into her home to raise her. Apart from her status, she was treated no differently from me. She clung to her mother's arm and acted spoiled. Now both my older sister and I have secrets. In my previous life, after learning that Li Huan had faked his death, I gradually discovered many things. I knew that Li Huan couldn't disobey the Empress Dowager's decree, so he reluctantly married me. I also knew that on the day Lin Qingwan came of age, Li Huan personally gave her a hairpin, and the two made a vow of eternal love. But Lin Qingwan had known since childhood that I was in love with Li Huan. On countless nights filled with youthful longing, I snuggled up with her in bed, sharing these unspeakable secrets. After learning all this, I finally understood the meaning of the words Lin Qingwan had spoken to me as she left the city. She said, "Sister, what truly makes someone unforgettable is never about being together forever. I never intended to stand in the way of anyone's happiness, but they shouldn't use my lifelong loneliness to fulfill their longing. If I were to live my life again, I would never have the heart to act out the role of a sister with her." My mother smiled awkwardly. "Silly child. What are you talking about? What did your older sister hide from you? From childhood to adulthood, your older sister loved you the most and always thought of you first." Lin Qingwan's eyes grew brighter. "That's right. My older sister always gave way to me. So, older sister, if I want to marry the crown prince, is that okay?" Her mother was startled and scolded her. "That's improper. The crown prince is still here. What nonsense are you talking about?" Lin Qingwan rolled her eyes. Unconcerned. "I didn't say anything wrong. There aren't many eligible young men from prominent families. The Empress Dowager values our Lin family so much, she must choose one of the princes. The second and third princes already have official wives. The fourth and fifth princes are just starting their education, and the sixth and seventh princes are still babies. That leaves only the crown prince and Mu Xiaojun, who recently returned to Chang'an on official business. I've never liked warriors. My elder sister will surely grant me my wish, right?" I signaled to my mother with my eyes to stay calm. The matter of an arranged marriage must respect the Empress Dowager's decree. There's no question of granting or not granting. My elder sister doesn't have that kind of influence. In 3 days, we'll know the answer. After saying this, I no longer spoke. Lin Qingwan also wisely kept her mouth shut. I pretended not to notice Li Huan's trembling body. Before returning to my room, Lin Qingwan followed me. "Sister, the border is harsh and cold. People will die there. I know I have no right to compete with you for anything, even if it's just the position of concubine." "I know." Lin Qingwan has also returned. As night fell, my mother came to my room with a worried expression. I had always thought that Lu Nyang was a pure-hearted woman, and her child couldn't possibly go wrong. That's why I treated her like I treated you from a young age. I never expected her to harbor such a huge ambition. Our dynasty places great emphasis on the distinction between legitimate and illegitimate children. Lin Qingwan's words today were truly inappropriate. I patted my mother's hand to comfort her. She went on and on for a while before returning to her room to discuss it with my father. I paced in the courtyard, staring at the moon. In the past, on such a beautiful moonlit night, I would have been admiring it with Li Huan. He would drink wine, and I would drink tea. Little did I know that he was using the moonlight to think of someone thousands of miles away. The snow on the border must be just as pure and bright. One looked up at the moon. The other looked down at the snow. They gazed at each other from afar. At that time, I was still full of anticipation for my future with Li Huan. What should we name our first child? The next day, I encountered Li Huan riding out on horseback on the street. Without thinking, I told him that Lin Qingwan had gone to sweep the grave of Lu Nyang today. If the crown prince was looking for her, he would likely come back empty-handed. Li Huan's smile froze for a moment, looking somewhat unnatural. "Qingyin, I came to find you." The private room at Zuixianlu was filled with my favorite dishes. Facing Li Huan's hesitation, I gradually lost patience. Just say what you want to say, Prince. He put down his chopsticks and looked at me sincerely. I know that the Empress Dowager will definitely marry you to me. But the borderlands are harsh and cold. Qingwan's delicate constitution won't be able to endure it. The Empress Dowager loves you the most. She will listen to your words. Can you ask the Empress Dowager to marry both of you to me? Rest assured, Qingwan will be a concubine, and she won't overshadow you. This did not happen in my previous life. I suppose it was Lin Qingwan's words yesterday that gave him this idea. Or perhaps they had already discussed this today. I smiled and took a bite of food. How does the Crown Prince know that I will definitely be betrothed to you? Perhaps you will get your wish. After all, no one can predict the Empress Dowager's intentions. Li Huan froze, a look of confusion flashing in his eyes. You won't marry me? Then who will you marry? He frowned at me, his tone growing displeased. Qingyin, are you speaking to me out of anger? You've always loved me since childhood, and I've seen it all. I came here today to speak to you because I hope, for the sake of our sisterly bond, that you'll lend a hand to Qingwan. I will inherit the throne in the future, and the harem will certainly not be limited to just you. But you will be my only legitimate wife. Is that not enough? When did you become so jealous? I looked at Li Huan before me. The face of the young man who once shared my dreams of a lifetime of devotion to a single person, as depicted in the picture book, gradually separated from the person before me. The dishes that once made my mouth water now seemed greasy and repulsive to me. I did not argue, using the excuse of feeling unwell to leave first. As soon as I stepped out of the private room, I heard commotion inside. The layout here was 2 connected rooms. I thought, surely Lin Qingwan had been listening from the next room. Is my older sister angry? Prince, I'm sorry. It's all because Warner was too much, making such unreasonable demands. Prince, don't mind me. I'll follow that mood general to the border. Let's just consider ourselves without a connection in this lifetime. Prince, please go comfort my older sister. These words made Li Huan feel deeply heartbroken. My departure was seen by him as jealousy and petty tantrums. Don't mind her. She's never been angry with me for more than 3 hours in her entire life. She'll come crawling back soon. On the day of the imperial marriage, I'll personally ask the Empress Dowager for permission. What a heartbreaking love story. Alas, in this lifetime, I only wish to be a bystander. On the day of the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet, our entire family entered the palace. After the civil and military officials paid their respects, the evening banquet began. Mu Lianin was also present. I hadn't seen him in the past few days. I heard he was training troops at a camp outside the city. The border situation was tense, so he couldn't stay long. Unlike Li Huan's delicate features, he had spent years on the battlefield. His skin tanned, but his features remained as gentle as a scholar's. For a moment, I couldn't connect him with the bloodthirsty warlord described by the enemy soldiers. Perhaps he noticed my frequent glances. Mu Lianin's gaze suddenly locked onto mine. He quickly looked away. Surprisingly, there was an emotion in his eyes that I couldn't quite discern. Halfway through the banquet, the main event finally arrived. The Empress Dowager put down her chopsticks, dismissed the musicians, and spoke slowly. These 2 girls from the Lin family have grown up. Today, I will act as the matchmaker and arrange marriages for both of them. At my parents' gesture, I knelt in the center of the hall with Lin Qingwan. The old maid by the Empress Dowager's side was about to read the imperial decree. Li Huan impatiently jumped forward. Grandmother, your grandson has an urgent request. The Empress Dowager spoke calmly. Speak. Li Huan stepped forward and knelt down, saying, Your Imperial Majesty, I know you wish to marry Qingyin to me as the crown princess. However, the one I have always loved is Warner. I am well aware of the distinction between legitimate and concubine-born children and dare not break the ancestral rules. I humbly request that you grant honor to me as a concubine, while Qingyin may remain the crown princess." Upon hearing this, the entire hall fell silent. My father and mother's faces turned as dark as night. These words were a harsh blow to my pride. Everyone knew that I was in love with Li Huan. Yet he had openly admitted that he preferred my younger sister. In the end, he even graciously offered me the position of Empress. If this were to happen, I would become the laughingstock of all Chang'an. The Empress Dowager looked at him with a mocking smile. "Huaner, why are you in such a hurry? I haven't even read the imperial edict yet. And you're already jumping in to make arrangements?" Li Huan was at a loss for words and hurriedly kowtowed several times before standing up and stepping aside. He didn't forget to glare at me resentfully. He must have thought that I hadn't fulfilled his request. The old nurse cleared her throat and read out the imperial edict. When everyone heard that I had been betrothed to Mu Lianin, the hall erupted in chaos. Mu Lianin immediately knelt beside me and kowtowed in gratitude. "Your servant obeys the imperial edict." I also curtsied gracefully. Li Huan looked at me with a look of disbelief. "No. It can't be. This is absolutely impossible." In front of everyone, Li Huan lost his composure and dragged me out of the hall. Even as Lin Qingwan called out to him from behind, he ignored her completely. By the time we reached the imperial garden, I finally broke free of his grip. I rubbed my wrist and congratulated him. "Congratulations, Crown Prince. May all your wishes come true." Li Huan, however, was losing control. "Why would the Empress Dowager give you to someone else? Tell me, what's going on here?" I looked at him innocently. It was the Empress Dowager's decree. How dare I speculate? Besides, haven't you always been in love with Qingwan? Now that she's about to become your official wife, you should be happy. A hint of panic flashed in Li Huan's eyes. "No, this is not the outcome I wanted. I do have feelings for Wanner, but you've grown up with me since childhood. I never thought of giving you up." Li Huan, the blessings of having two wives are not so easy to enjoy. I watched him lose his mind in silence, refusing to respond. He collapsed for a moment, then regained his composure. "The Empress Dowager loves you the most. Tell her you don't want to marry Mu Lianin, and she will change her mind. Let's go. Now. Let's go find the Empress Dowager." After saying that, he grabbed my hand and tried to pull me back. I broke free. "Who said I don't want to marry Mu Lianin? The land that my grandmother spent her entire life protecting. Whether in the past life or this one, I've always wanted to go. Before, I was blinded by so-called love and buried my lifelong desire. This time, I won't." Li Huan was pushed by me and nearly fell to the ground. He took step after step toward me, his eyes bloodshot. What do you mean?" I despised his approach and stepped back one step at a time. The next moment, I collided with a sturdy chest. I turned around. It was Mu Lianin. His face was shrouded in the night, and I couldn't see clearly. He steadied me and stood in front of me without a word. Li Huan had lost all traces of his prince's dignity. Seeing Mu Lianin, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. "The emperor is speaking with Tong Qingyin. What business is it of yours? Get out of here!" Mu Lianin did not back down, standing straight in front of Li Huan. "It was the Empress Dowager who sent me out to find my unmarried wife. How can the crown prince say it has nothing to do with me?" He spoke calmly and steadily. Li Huan lost all his fighting spirit. On the way back to the palace, Lin Qingwan did not hide the joy on her face. Seeing her parents' sorrow, she spoke up. "Father and mother, your daughter is about to become the crown prince's wife. Aren't you happy for me? Why are you frowning? If it had been your elder sister who was chosen for the crown prince today, You would have been beating drums and setting off firecrackers long ago. Her mother was stunned. Wanner, what are you saying? Lin Qingwan smiled sweetly as usual. But the words that came out of her mouth were unlike anything she had ever said before. Mother, stop pretending. You've only been kind to me to avoid the reputation of a harsh matriarch who mistreats her concubine's daughter. You've never treated me the same as my older sister. You want me to marry that warrior and go to the border. Don't you? You've never truly loved me. Her father was about to speak. But she interrupted him loudly. And you, father, when my biological mother died, I was only 5 years old. You never asked me if I wanted to be raised by you. You just handed me over to mother to raise. Do you know how envious I was every time I saw my older sister cuddling with her own mother? In the end, I'm just a lowly concubine's daughter, the child of a mistress. Now that I've been blessed with fortune and become the crown princess, taking my older sister's place, you must all resent me, right? Father and mother are both kind-hearted people. They've never harbored such thoughts. Since the imperial decree has been issued, it's already decided. They would never take their anger out on her. Her furrowed brows are merely out of concern for my future life in that harsh and cold place. When Lin Qingwan left in the previous life, my mother wept bitterly all night. Does she not remember any of this? They were so enraged they could not speak. I turned and slapped Lin Qingwan across the face. You haven't even officially become the crown princess yet. And you're already disregarding the proper order of respect? This slap is to teach you a lesson for speaking recklessly in front of your father and mother. Think about it carefully. Have the people in the mansion ever treated you unfairly? You know how your mother has treated you. If I hear such slanderous words again, I will hit you every time I hear them. I will be the crown princess in the future. How dare you hit me? What right do you have to hit me? I slapped her again. This slap was to teach you respect for your elders. I am your elder sister. How dare you shout at me without using proper titles? You're going to be the crown princess? You're not yet. So I have the right to discipline you. If you don't agree, you can go ask the crown prince to punish me. She must have thought about Li Huan's outburst tonight. Even after the banquet ended, I only gave her a half-hearted smile. All the affection I once felt for her was gone. She put away her smug expression and silently turned her head away. After comforting my father and mother, I returned to my room. Lin Qingwan was already waiting outside the door for me. I should also thank my elder sister for making this possible. I never thought I'd even get a concubine. But now I've got this unimaginable wealth. What's so great about being the legitimate daughter? You agree, don't you, elder sister? She smiled at me, as if she had returned to the past. Our most intimate moment. I shook my head and walked toward her. Do you remember what you said yourself? What people never forget is never growing old together. Her smile froze. You're back too? Early the next morning, Li Huan came to the mansion. He had resumed his arrogant demeanor as the crown prince. Qingyin, I've come to understand. You didn't want to share honor with another man. So you conspired with the Empress Dowager to force me to give her up. Didn't you? Li Huan looked at me with certainty, determined to get what he wanted. You've always been so gentle. I never expected you to have such thoughts. Using leaving me to force me to comply. Qingyin, don't you think this is too much? Honor entering the Eastern Palace is already a done deal. You must clarify this with the Empress Dowager and stop causing trouble. I've even come personally to comfort you. What more do you want? Li Huan, is it because someone left you? Would you favor them more? But I have no interest in playing your games of chase and evade. Lin Qingwan, who had rushed over, nearly ground her teeth to dust upon hearing his words. But she couldn't vent her anger. In front of her crown prince brother, she was the gentle and obedient little rabbit. The crown prince is here? Hurry inside and rest for a while. The morning dew is heavy, you'll catch a cold. Li Huan merely glanced at her indifferently. Go inside first. Wan. I'll talk to your elder sister for a moment. Are all men like this? They never cherish those they can easily obtain. Lin Qingwan said nothing, but stubbornly clung to his arm and refused to leave. Li Huan seemed tired and rubbed his eyes. You've been standing here since early morning, just waiting for me to bow my head, aren't you? All right. I'll bow my head this time. Don't be so stubborn. Wan. Be a good girl. When the time comes, you'll enter the Eastern Palace together, and he'll only respect you more. What are you causing a scene for? Suddenly, I smiled in his direction. He shook his head helplessly, looking as if to say, I knew it. However, I did not give in as he had expected. Instead, I walked around him and headed straight for the door. It was Mu Lianin. Behind him was a crowd of people, almost blocking the door completely. Those people were carrying the betrothal gifts he had prepared. You're here? I've been waiting for you for a long time. My father and mother are waiting inside, I said as I led Mu Lianin into the house. When we passed Li Huan, he walked to my left. He separated me from Li Huan. Li Huan swept his sleeves and left, and Lin Qingwan hurried after him. The servants offered tea to Mu Lianin, but he stood up and poured tea into his father and mother's cups himself. Mu has spent his entire life on the battlefield and doesn't know how to speak beautifully. But please rest assured, as long as I am alive, Qingyin will be safe. I will protect her with my life. He was likely thinking of his grandmother's life. Their eyes held an unwavering resolve beyond that of ordinary people. My father and mother did not say much. Only that when fate arrives, one must cherish it. Please cherish me above all else. The wedding was set for the 6th day of the first month, and I would leave the day after the wedding. The war was intense, and Mu Lianin staying this long was truly his limit. Though Mu Lianin was a rough man, his heart was unexpectedly tender. Watching the wedding preparations, I felt a pang of shame. After all, I had never truly wanted to marry him. On the day of the wedding, the atmosphere was lively and bustling. After the wedding, maid escorted us into the bridal chamber and watched us drink the union wine. She smiled and withdrew, looking at the flickering red candles. I momentarily didn't know how to speak. Mu Lianin smiled and untied the wedding garments that bound us together. He stood up and handed me something. Take a look. I reached out and took it. It was the marriage contract. It was a marriage contract without a seal. I was taken aback and looked up at him. Mu Lianin smiled as always, warm and gentle. Qingyin, you need not worry about how to speak. A marriage contract without a seal is not binding. Once we leave the city tomorrow, you will be free. He knows everything? He sat down, his gaze filled with countless emotions. I know you do not wish to marry me. Or rather, you don't want to marry anyone, right? But I truly love you. So I'm using this wedding as a way to fulfill my own dream. I've followed all the proper customs. He paused briefly, his expression tinged with bitterness. This way, I can at least have you completely for a short time. That's enough. A wave of shock surged through my chest. But we've only met a few times. How could you be so sincere? He began to tell a story. Back when our grandmother was at war, our family lived at the border for several months. Lin Qingwan couldn't endure the hardships and cried every day, begging to return to Chang'an. But I loved the scenery behind the mountains. Every day, I would go to the training ground to watch my grandmother in her battle armor riding her horse. Those were the happiest moments of my life. Seeing how much I loved it. My grandmother made me a small red riding outfit. She would take me out every day to ride through the snow-covered fields. I had been sent to the army by my father at a young age to toughen up. so I had never seen such a lively woman before. Even though you were just a little girl, you weren't afraid of the war horses at all and rode them more joyfully than anyone else. Do you remember that night when the camp was ambushed by enemy troops? I was trapped under a tent, and everyone was scrambling to escape. No one noticed me, but you pulled me out of the rubble. I was injured and bleeding profusely, and you took off the red cloak your grandmother had made for you and used it to bandage my wounds. Later, you returned to Chang'an, and I never saw you again, but I never forgot you. A red cloth strip was held before me. It looked old and faded. For some reason, my eyes grew warm. Mu Lianin continued. When the Empress Dowager said she wanted to arrange a marriage for me, I originally intended to refuse. But I thought, what if it's you? There's a 1 in 10,000 chance it could be you. If I take the risk and lose, I'll accept it. After returning to Chang'an, I investigated many things about you and learned that you and the Crown Prince have been close since childhood. If I lose, I'll give up completely, but I still have a 1% chance of having you. On the day the imperial edict was read, I almost believed I could truly have you. But the look in your eyes held not a single trace of emotion. I knew something had happened to you, and you were leaving Chang'an, but your destination wouldn't be by my side. He knew everything. Are you truly willing to grant me this? Mu Lianin smiled, of course. I only wish for you to live a life of ease and happiness. I had originally thought that I would let you leave secretly without burdening you, but I still wanted to say goodbye properly. So, in this life, I made up for my regret. Mu Lianin also fulfilled his own wishes. Unfortunately, I still left him with a huge regret, but I couldn't feel anything but gratitude toward him. The lessons of my previous life taught me that forcing someone is the most unfair thing you can do to them. I only hope that Mu Lianin will be invincible on the battlefield, face no dangers, and live a life of peace. When I left the city, my father and mother held my hands and gave me repeated instructions. Even the Empress Dowager came out of the palace to see me off. She tucked my hair, which had been blown by the wind, behind my ear. Did you already know about the foolish things Huan did behind your back? That's why you married someone else. The Empress Dowager's keen eyes had long since seen through the affair between Lin Qingwan and Li Huan. But she believed that once everything was settled, things would improve. The Empress Dowager and my grandmother had been close sisters since childhood. Back then, she didn't know that the late emperor had secretly harbored feelings for my grandmother. Nor did she know that my grandmother, who cherished her freedom, had once considered escaping the palace walls for him. So, she followed her elder's wishes and married the late emperor, who was then the crown prince. It wasn't until the late emperor passed away that she learned the secret. The late emperor had once considered taking her grandmother into the harem, but her grandmother couldn't accept the idea of being with her best friend. She also couldn't accept the unclear feelings the late emperor harbored for her. That's why she said I resemble her grandmother. And because of her guilt toward her grandmother, she treated me even better. The journey ahead is long, take care of yourself. I hugged her, you must also take care of yourself. As we approached the city gates, Li Huan galloped up on his horse. Only after losing something does one realize its true value. The weight of those words continued to grow. I pulled on the reins and frowned at him. What are you doing here? Li Huan jumped off his horse and urgently blocked my horse's path. I'm sorry, Qing Yin. I came too late. The Empress Dowager feared something might go wrong with your wedding, so she sent someone to watch me and prevent me from leaving. Otherwise, I would have never let you marry this brute yesterday. Today, I managed to escape with great difficulty. Please, stay. All the dramatic scenes that didn't happen in the previous life, Li Huan has used them all. He clearly loved Lin Wanqing to the point of death, even willing to give up the throne and fake his death to leave the palace and guard her grave. Now that he knows I'm leaving, he rushes here to stop me. Does he really know who he truly loves? I had a dream where we got married. But later I treated you badly. When I woke up, I regretted it so much. Qingyin. This feeling of regret is like being tortured to death. Each knife cutting into my heart. If you're unhappy, I don't want Wanner anymore. Please just stay. Lin Qingwan, who had been rushing to catch up in a carriage, heard these words as soon as she got off the carriage. She looked at Li Huan with tear-filled eyes. My older brother, the crown prince. It was you who said you had no choice but to marry my older sister. It was you who swore eternal love to me. How can you hurt me like this now? Unfortunately, her tears could no longer move Li Huan. He didn't even glance at her, only stared at me pleadingly. Just as I was about to speak, a strange sound came from the bamboo grove. Mu Lianin, who had been silently standing by, became alert. Be careful! A sharp sword whizzed past my ear. Mu Lianin grabbed me and jumped off the horse. There's an ambush! With his angry shout, the soldiers drew their weapons. The scene became chaotic for a moment. I was tightly shielded behind Mu Lianin until the enemies grew too numerous, forcing us to split up. I was cornered at the edge of a cliff. Mu Lianin tried to rush over but was held back and couldn't move. The man who had swung his sword at me froze in place before collapsing backward. Li Huan pulled the sword from the man's body. He hurried toward me. Qingyin, are you okay? I steadied my nerves and shook my head slightly. At that moment, I was more concerned about Mu Lianin's condition. He was the war god in the hearts of the border people. With him, the people would not lose their resolve. Suddenly, someone cautiously crept around from the side. I turned around alertly. It was Lin Qingwan. Seeing me turn, she no longer moved cautiously. She raised her short sword and lunged at me. Lin Qingyin, die! Li Huan leaped forward and blocked her in front of me. His arm was stabbed. Lin Qingwan, now like a madwoman, drew her sword again and charged at me. Why? Why? Even in this lifetime, is my fate still inferior to yours? The crown prince clearly loves me. He loved me for a lifetime in his previous life. But this time, we both got what we wanted. Why? Why did he break off the engagement? Why did he come to stop you from leaving? Li Huan embraced her tightly, preventing her from approaching me. In the struggle, Lin Qingwan was pushed off the cliff. Only when the screams faded did Li Huan collapse. Exhausted, he covered his wound, his face covered in blood. If that wasn't a dream, I wonder if I can return this to you. The sounds of battle behind us were deafening, but I stood there quietly, neither helping him nor speaking. I can't repay you. Mu Lianin's men dealt with the ambushing enemy troops. He rushed over to me. Are you okay? I wiped the blood from the corner of his eye and told him I was fine. He sent someone to take Li Huan back, handled the scene, and rested for a while before we set off again. After 2 months of stop-and-go travel, we finally reached the small border town. It was time for us to part ways. If you go further, you'll reach our military camp. Stay here. The people here are kind and the place is free and unrestricted. You'll like it. I nodded. Don't worry. I'll always be there to protect you. I've spoken to your parents. As long as I'm alive, you'll be safe. As long as I don't fall, this small town will remain safe and prosperous. I said nothing more, only nodding gently. The people all trust you. Mu Lianin, I'm sorry for what I've done to you. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I feel no regret in my heart. But if I have betrayed anyone, it is only the person before me. To mistake pity for love is to truly betray his sincerity. Therefore, Mu Lianin, I can only wish you victory in battle. 5 years later, news of my death reached Chang'an. The 6th year was the time for my official report. But I truly did not wish to return. Only this reason could make Lin Qingyin of Chang'an disappear forever. It was said that Li Huan, who had been stripped of his title as crown prince for refusing to marry, sat alone in the courtyard all night. Later, people discovered that the Lin mansion had fallen into ruin. Everyone said that the Lin family had lost 2 daughters, and the second son, deeply shaken, had given up his armor and returned to the fields. 2 months later, I met my father and mother. I prepared a local specialty, grilled lamb, for them. You must have been tired on the journey, try some. Later, I lived a carefree and unrestrained life. My father and mother were willing to go out with me on horseback, reminiscing about the days when my grandmother was still alive. As we passed a solitary grave, I saw a familiar figure. Hey, isn't that the former crown prince? My mother looked curiously. I smiled and blocked his view. How could that be? The former crown prince was still a prince with a fiefdom. He wouldn't come here. My father nodded in agreement. All right. Since we've left Chang'an, we shouldn't concern ourselves with its people anymore. Let's go. Today, I'll make you some grilled lamb. We laughed heartily and rode off on our horses. Later, I passed by again. This lonely grave was the symbolic tomb Mu Lianin had erected for me as part of his charade. Against the backdrop of snow-covered ground, a thinly clad gravedigger sat motionless. Oh my goodness! How could you freeze to death like this? Li Huanbiao's way of showing his feelings was as unique as it was in his previous life. Wearing so little in such cold weather, that's asking for trouble. Li Huan's way of showing his true feelings was just as unique as in his previous life. But it had nothing to do with me. Mu Lianin fell on the battlefield at the age of 40. As his widow, I helped bury his remains. Let him have me one last time. Briefly but completely.